I'm broken. That hike the other day has just completely written me off. I already had a range of knee and ankle problems before that, but since getting back from that 22-mile trek the other day, I laid down, I stood back up, and I can no longer straighten my right knee, and it absolutely canes. I have spent a couple of days not doing an awful lot, nothing video worthy at least, and there's still no improvement, still proper hurts. However, today is the last day of this Central Asia trip, of the 3-stand tour, flying home tomorrow, and so today just gonna soldier on, power through it one last time for a walk around Bishkek, the capital city of Kyrgyzstan. I met a couple of people when I was in Kazakhstan, in Almaty. They just crossed the border from Bishkek to Almaty, and they all assured me that Bishkek is probably the most boring city in the world. But I don't believe that for a second. I reckon everywhere's got something to shout about, so let's go and see if it's actually any good or not. And the first thing we've managed to stumble across today is this weird cubic asymmetrical transformer looking thing, which I believe is here to symbolize the fathers of the Kyrgyz nation. It's pretty funky, isn't it? Not really sure how that's supposed to actually symbolize anything in particular, but there you go. Just like Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan was part of the Soviet Union, and nothing shows that off more than big, blocky, square, grey concrete buildings like this. This one in particular is the Philharmonic Hall. It's not all important except for the fact that it has a statue of this guy in front of it. This is a guy called Manas. He's the subject of the world's longest epic poem, and he's the national hero of Kyrgyzstan because he's the guy that is said to have gathered 40 tribes in order to establish a country for his own people, the Kyrgyz. That epic poem, known simply as the Epic of Manas, is 500,000 lines long. Famous long epic literature like Homer's Odyssey and Iliad are only 27,000 words long combined, which means it's 20 times longer than something already incredibly long. While there is much debate about how old it actually is, the Kyrgyz people say it's over 1,000 years old. Other historians say it was definitely written sometime around the 18th century. It's still an incredibly important piece of literature for Kyrgyzstan. It highlights their national hero. It talks about how their nation was formed, allegedly, and is still the longest epic poem in the world by number of verses. Behind me is the White House, the place where the top dog in Kyrgyzstan lives. It was also the centre of two incredibly important national occurrences in 2005 and 2010. In 2005 there was a thing called the Tulip Revolution, whose goal was to overthrow the government, and it succeeded. In 2010 there was a second revolution, known conveniently as the Second Kyrgyz Revolution, in which the plan was to do the same thing again, except this time it was way more severe, and I think in total over the 8 months of the struggle about 2,000 people were killed. A lot of stuff was also set fire to, which destroyed a lot of government records, but overall it succeeded. It overthrew the government and it changed Kyrgyzstan from a presidential to a parliamentary republic. This is another Soviet structure built in 1976, and it's called the Stela of Friendship of Nation. It's to commemorate 100 years since Kyrgyzstan and Russia joined together, and it's to celebrate the friendship of the people of Kyrgyzstan and the then Soviet Union. Here we've got a massive square with the State History Museum just there. Obviously we've got a statue of our mate Manas there, and you'll notice there are two guards who are actually guarding the flag itself, not the building, they're guarding the flag. Guarding the flag, I believe, is a symbol of strength and unity and all those nice words regarding protecting the independence of Kyrgyzstan as a country, which of course it gained in 1991, like a lot of countries around that time, because of the breakup of the Soviet Union. Well, right place, right time, that wasn't it? That was the changing of the guard ceremony thing we caught by chance as we were passing. And now there's two new guys guarding the flag. Oh, and if you are interested, this is why the Kyrgyz flag looks like it does. The centre is the sun as seen through the roof of a traditional Kyrgyz yurt, which is a tent, and it's got 40 rays of sun in respect to this guy who rounded up 40 tribes to found the country. Now, when's the last time you saw a £3 coin or note, or 3 pence, or $3, or €3, or 3 Ugya, 3 anything denomination of any currency? Well, the chances are you probably haven't, unless you've been here. But Kyrgyzstan's got one. They use the Som currency, and there's a 3 of it. Pretty weird that, isn't it? I didn't even notice that for the first few days, but yeah, they've not just got a 1, 2, 5 like everybody else, they've got a 3 as well. I can't think of any other countries that do that. If you can think of any, let me know, but I think that's pretty weird. Not sure how that's going to benefit you or change your life, but there it is. Kyrgyzstan has got a 3 Som coin. Right next to the giant flag and the State History Museum is this. This is Ala-2 Park, pretty much the heart itself of Bishkek. That number 40 is actually dead important to Kyrgyzstan, so much so that that is actually the source of the country's name. Kyrk is an old Turkish word meaning 40, Uz is an old Turkish word meaning tribes, and Stan is an old Persian word, as we know, meaning land of. So it literally means land of the 40 tribes. And if pronouns were allowed in Scrabble, Kyrgyzstan would score you the second highest amount of points out of any country on earth. You'd get 30 points for putting Kyrgyzstan down. Do you want to know what number 1 is? In fact, I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to give you a few seconds to think about it. Which single word country do you reckon scores more than 30 points in Scrabble? Alright, so you've had a few seconds to think. What do you reckon is the only country that would outscore Kyrgyzstan in a game of Scrabble? Well, if your answer was Azerbaijan, then you were wrong. Actually, it's not Azerbaijan. It's not Zimbabwe. Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, we went to those two earlier on this trip. It's neither of those, but they're pretty good guesses. They're pretty close. The answer is actually Mozambique. You get 34 points for putting Mozambique down, if you were allowed. The only country that would get more points than Kyrgyzstan. So there you have it, another terribly useless fact for you. There are loads of parks in Bishkek. Owing to its Soviet past, it's all really big and spaced out. Loads of areas like this, and this one is called Victory Park, in the middle of which is this giant monument comprised of 3 granite arches there to mimic a yurt, again a traditional Kyrgyz tent. There's an eternal flame burning in memory of the 400,000 citizens of Kyrgyzstan that fought in the Second World War, and in the middle, quite sadly, there is a lady, whether it be the mother or the wife of a soldier, still waiting for her son or her husband to come home. It seems at first glance that as a standalone structure it's here to remind us of the true cost of victory, but if we look in the distance, there's a couple of statues, one there and one over there, that give it a bit of a different meaning. This one represents a couple of soldiers actually making it back from war, being greeted by kids and looking pretty buzzing that it's all over. And the second one shows a couple of soldiers dismantling a machine gun and making their way back home to the woman in the middle, whether it be their wife or their mum. And I think these statues together kind of put a bit of a positive spin on it. Like, you know what, not everybody died in the war, although of course the eternal flame is there to pay respects to those that did. But after all, they did win, and as a result, some of the boys made it home again. Well, apparently Kyrgyzstan's got one of these as well. This is obviously a circus UFO weird Soviet contraption like the one we saw in Astana in Kazakhstan. Well, Bishkek's got one and all. And here we have a building that looks more like an evil lair than a wedding palace, but in fact that is what it is. That's where people get married apparently. Outside of which they've not only got stretch Hummers, but they've also got a gold one. Bloody hell. My knee hurts. Another little nugget for you about Kyrgyzstan: it is the furthest country away from the nearest body of open water. That's a weird one to phrase. Out of all the countries on earth, no country lies further away from a sea or an ocean than Kyrgyzstan, because it's surrounded by countries like Russia, Kazakhstan, China, between loads of huge land masses. It means the nearest ocean or sea is more than 1,000 miles away, and I believe it's the Indian Ocean. It's pretty mad, isn't it? We are now in Panfilov Park. You might recognise that name from our stay in Almaty, named after the 28 Panfilov Guardsmen, and that's because of that 28 they were made up of Almaty and Bishkek natives. This one seems a little bit livelier than its Kazakh counterpart. There's a few rides and other things going on, and if I show you this screenshot, you'll see that it was also built in the shape of a pentagram. And I am absolutely clueless as to why. Anyway, I reckon that just about brings proceedings to a close, and not just from Bishkek, not just from Kyrgyzstan, but from Central Asia as a whole. As I mentioned earlier, tomorrow I am flying home after a pretty mint couple of weeks in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. I would have loved to have filmed more in each country, but especially I would have loved to have shown you more of Kyrgyzstan. But the things I've been getting up to the past couple of days since being on 1.5 legs probably wouldn't have been that interesting to film anyway. However, I, like everybody else on earth, have time constraints, and so unfortunately it is home time. I would really appreciate it if you would take 30 seconds to leave me some feedback, because I plan to keep making these when I go on trips like this, and I want them to be as good as possible for your viewing pleasure. So if at the end of this video you could just take a moment or two to leave a comment outlining something like 1, your favourite bit, 2, a couple or more things that you like, maybe you like history and you like the green stuff, 3, a couple or more things that you don't like, maybe you find history tedious, maybe you think it's pointless watching me climb a mountain, 4, something you think I could improve on, and 5, if you're feeling spicy, a suggestion or 2 about the kind of thing you want to see in future. Maybe you want to see more English based stuff, maybe you want to see me go to India or Pakistan or South America, I don't know, just some kind of suggestion on what you'd like to see more of. Any engagement, feedback or advice is going to be incredibly appreciated, and you will be being instrumental in what comes from me in future. Together, hopefully, we can work to make something that you enjoy watching, I enjoy making. Everybody's a winner. For now, I'm going to head to a bed, lay down and apologise profusely to my knee for abusing it all day today while it's been screaming at me to stop walking around. I hope you've enjoyed Bishkek today. I hope you've enjoyed Central Asia in general, all the bits that we've visited, and as always, I hope you've learned something new. Cheers boys, see you in a bit.